Okay.
All right, I'm Jonathan with the JCI Simplex 4100 ES panel. Basic functions of the panel are you got system reset, alarm silence, trouble acknowledge, supervisory acknowledge, priority to acknowledge, fire alarm acknowledge. So basically what happens is if there's a trouble event, the light will flash above the trouble acknowledge. Right, it'll flash at you like it's doing now. Push the button, you acknowledge. It'll tell you what's going on, what the issue is. And it'll continue to flash and beep until somebody comes and acknowledges it. Right? Same thing happens with supervisory events. Right? So trouble events are more like there's something wrong with the system, somebody took something down, could be a ground fault, an abnormal condition with the fire alarm panel. Supervisory condition would either be off normal, which means that somebody has a tamper, maybe someone closed a tamper somewhere in the building, or supervisory in a room. So all the rooms are latching supervisories. When the smoke detectors go into alarm, they don't actually set the whole building into alarm. They set their own apartment into alarm, and they'll continue to be an alarm until somebody comes, acknowledges the supervisory, resets the system. So you can either hit reset and it resets, or you can silence. It'll silence and then you can hit reset. You can do either one. But it's not going to fully reset until you hit system reset. So after you acknowledge the supervisory, even if you silence, you always want to reset. Okay. Otherwise their apartment, is going to keep going off and going off. So that's a supervisory event. Priority to event. In this building they have COs, so carbon monoxide detectors. Right? So if they get a CO event, it's going to light red here, it's going to flash, it's going to say priority 2, and it's going to say gas detection. And what's going to happen in the room, rather than getting a code 3, you're going to get a code 4 in the room. And it's going to come in red just like here, it's going to report to the PD, and then someone's going to need to come and acknowledge it the same way. Alarm silence, system reset.
Does that trigger an evacuation of the building?
No.
So it's similar to the supervisory, that it only affects the suite or the apartment.
That's correct.
Okay.
The only thing in the units that will set it into general alarm are the heat detectors. For sequence of off, all heat detectors are general alarm.
Yes.
Other than that, any other event inside the room is localized to the room. Okay. Smoke spreads out and gets into the corridor, and then it'll go into general alarm.
Yep.
And the whole building will go off and evacuate everybody.
Yep.
So when that event happens, it'll flash red above the button that it wants you to acknowledge. You acknowledge the button, you acknowledge it, it'll give you a description of the location. Same thing, once whatever procedure the school has, once they take that procedure, alarm silence, system reset.
Yep.
Everything is fully functional from this building for all 3 buildings. There's no need to go to any other. We have 2 panels in the building, but there's no need to go to the second panel. This is the master panel, and it handles everything. So that's just the events that happen here. So like, for instance, you get a water flow, general alarm, heat detector, general alarm, or any area detection, which would be anywhere outside of the units. You'll get a general alarm on a smoke detector, heat detector, water flow, and you also have ANSL system here. That'll go into general alarm as well. That's just the basic functionalities of it. Anything, it's also at the end of the description going to give you the address to the device. So it's going to tell you the location description, but also have the address of that device at the end of the description. For instance, M11, M12, it's basically the addressable nomenclature for what the device is. You got pull stations. You only have pull stations in the 2 fire control rooms, or in this room and where the other fire panel's at, and then the other ones in I think where they do the maintenance for the
correct. And then there's two technically that are in the
maintenance
apartment.
Not pools, not for general alarm.
Not for general alarm, but for
Yeah.
the ancillaries, or the
those are part of the ANSL system.
The ANSL system.
Yeah. That's basic functionality. If the building goes into general alarm, you want to use a microphone, all you got to do is pick it up, squeeze it, make the announcement, no need to do anything else. Let it go. Put it back, you put it back, the building will continue to sound until you silence. So if you want to if you want to page the whole building, you can hit all speakers talk, page the building if you choose to. I mean, it pretty much runs itself. Other than that, all you got to do is just pick it up and wait for the green light to light. It'll say ready to talk down here. When you see that green light lit, you're ready to go. Say whatever you need to say. You let it go, green light goes away, alarm continues to sound. Other than that, that's just the basic functions. I might get a little deeper. I don't know how deep you guys want me to go into like disabling things or anything like that.
Well, I think the acknowledgement troubles and such covers floors 2 through 6. So explain a little bit how alarms on first floor may be different.
Alarms on first floor, no, it's all the same. I mean, first floor is a mostly general alarm. They do have a few rooms, and those are still localized to the room.
So that would be the 2 staff apartments are localized to those spaces?
Correct.
And everything else would be considered general?
Anything in a public space, or for instance, like I think they have some like conference rooms, or I don't know if they're conference rooms or
NPR.
yeah, NPR. You got on some of the other floors, you have
Your lounge and studies?
lounge and studies is a general alarm.
Okay.
So just inside the bedrooms, or I guess you call them apartments.
So the suites or
Yeah, just inside there is the only time you're going to get the latching supervisory localized to it. And I don't know, that's all I can think of for now. I mean, other than if you want to get deeper into the functionality.
That's really not our role. On our side, that's really PD and fire. And I think with the systems being similar to the ones we currently have, I don't think that'll be an issue.
Yeah, everything. The only thing different about this one that I think that you don't have in the other ones are the COs.
Correct.
So when they see the CO roll in, it'll be a little something different for them to see a priority 2 for
It'll be
gas
the priority
detection.
4, you say, yeah?
Priority 2.
Oh,
They get a
priority
code
2.
4. So the
Code
sounds different. Just like at your house, you have a carbon monoxide detector. If you were tested and you would hear it go off, it does a code 4.
Okay.
It does 4 beeps really fast, right?
Okay.
And then if your smoke detector goes off, it does a code 3, which is like a universal evacuation code for fire alarm. So that's what the building does. It does a code 3, or it's going to do the code 4 so you can tell the difference between what event is happening. I'm not sure if the students will recognize that, but is how it works. Code 3 for fire, code 4 for CO or gas leak.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the only thing different. And then always keep in mind that if a supervisory rolls in, I'm not sure how PD handles it, but I don't know if they just acknowledge and they leave it as it is, or they dispatch, or how that works. But that room will continue to go. It latches it until somebody actually comes to the panel and resets it.
So I know we're doing a little bit of a exercise right now with emergency power, but is there any way to kind of simulate, like, hey, one of them's going off, can we then show us how to go to the panel and then go through the steps? I know you kind of talked about steps, alarm silence.
Yeah, I mean, so
system
let's just say, for instance, one of the bedrooms on the 6th floor go into alarm, right?
general alarm, right?
Into the local alarm.
Oh, local, okay.
Local alarm, right, for the supervisory. Supervisory will flash,
Okay.
right? You acknowledge the supervisory. It'll tell you where it's at, the description of the location, right? The room. And once you acknowledge it, it's going to continue to keep playing the code 3 inside
Okay.
the unit.
It won't silence it inside the unit, though?
No.
Okay.
And then until somebody comes and presses alarm silence, it'll just silence it, right? But you're still, the alarm condition is still active. You're just telling the speakers, hey, stop making noise.
Okay.
Until somebody physically comes and hits system reset, you'll reset it. The supervisor will go away. That's how you know you're reset. So let's just say, we got things going on with the building right now, but let's just say we have the panels completely clear. All the lights are off here. It'll light yellow, you acknowledge it, alarm silence, system reset, the yellow light will go away to tell you it's reset. It's not reset until that supervisory goes away.
Okay.
So even that the bedroom is silent.
You got to expect the conditions, the conditions
Yeah.
handled.
So the detector will not let that supervisory clear until it's not detecting smoke anymore.
Right.
In our other buildings, where we've had scenarios where they acknowledge the supervisory, but they don't do a reset,
Yes.
it will silence the device, but yet then we've had occurrences where it will then re-alarm, we'll say, or go active again like 24 hours later?
Mhm.
Is that a condition that exists here too?
No.
Okay.
I don't have it enabled unless it's a request. There's a thing called, it probably does it 8 hours.
Is it 8?
Every 8 hours, yeah. By default, the system will, if you have a trouble on it, it's called reoccurring trouble, reoccurring supervisory.
Yep.
If somebody doesn't fix the problem, it'll basically set itself back, not necessarily into alarm, but it'll reflash the supervisory at you, letting somebody know, hey, you haven't fixed the condition yet. In here, it's not like that.
Okay.
Which is what I would think you prefer,
Yeah.
Tim, or do you not prefer that?
It's called reoccurring trouble, or so if you have a trouble, it'll do the same thing, or a supervisory will do the same thing.
Well, I guess then the question is, all right, you have a supervisory based
Yeah.
upon just in this suite itself. Somebody comes down, acknowledges it, and silences it, or silence and acknowledge, but does not reset. What happens then?
The system will still work normal.
Right.
The only issue that will happen will be, there's really no issue. But if somebody sets the same detector off again, it won't re-alarm itself. So for instance,
So that's important,
if
yeah.
it's still like, it's the same thing with an alarm event, right? Kind of works that way. So let's just say I set off a smoke detector in this room, it's a general alarm. I silence the building, everything's off on silent, right? When you hit silent, it turns strobes and speakers off, everything.
Yeah.
Now, if I leave that condition and don't reset the panel,
Right.
and I go and respray the same device and put it back in an alarm, it'll flash red again at me, letting me know it went back under detection, but it will not set the building off again because it's the same device. The only way to get it to reset off the building is by resetting it, it'll clear, and then put it back into alarm.
It's important to
It's
reset.
the same, it's important to reset. It's the same thing for the rooms. You need to make sure that you reset, otherwise you won't get re-alarm on that device.
Okay. So the condition won't reoccur, it will only still show on the panel
Correct,
that we did not reset.
correct.
Okay.
It'll reflash at you to know the event's happening again, but it won't resound the room again
Okay.
until it's reset.
So it's reset.
Yes.
I feel like Tim should make an announcement on that thing.
I think not.
No? Alright. Everyone get out, we got furniture to move.
Other than that, I mean, the only other thing that obviously happens, sometimes there's devices stuck in an alarm. For instance, if somebody pulls the pull station and doesn't reset the pull station, it'll keep aborting your reset. It won't let you reset the system. So if you were to pull that handle down on the pull station there, go into alarm, whole building, I can hit reset and it'll keep telling me it's aborted because it still sees that pull station active.
Sure.
Same thing for a smoke. If it's still under detection, it sees anything above like 2.5% smoke, it'll stay in alarm, it'll keep aborting your reset. That's the same thing with the latching supervisory. Still seeing smoke, it's saying, hey, I'm not resetting until it's clear. So that's when it gets a little deeper. If they've already proven it's not an actual alarm or there's nothing wrong, this device won't clear, either they might have to come out, try to clear the device, take it off, blow it out, put the device back up, and then see if it goes normal. If it doesn't, you could disable it, but that's kind of up to how the school wants to handle it.
Right. So, for example, if somebody removes a smoke detector and they're tampering with it, we'll get a trouble,
Get a trouble,
Okay.
head missing.
head missing.
Somebody removes a head, you get a head missing. I don't really know how you guys handle that, but it just goes into a regular trouble, head missing. Reports to PD as a head missing. So basically what you see here is going to be the exact same thing they see at PD, with the exception of if somebody takes down an addressable strobe, right? You'll get a general trouble here, and I'll tell you the strobe. Let's just say someone took down a strobe in building C, 6th floor, one of the apartments, right? They take down the strobe from the wall. It'll come in here as a no answer, the strobe. But PD won't see that specific description. They would have to come to the panel itself to get that specific description. It's just going to tell them, hey, I got a common trouble at this building of housing.
Got it.
And it's not specific. Anything other than that, when it comes to anything that goes into alarm, it's going to be specific. They're going to see it exactly like it comes up on this display. So like if you have a card problem or something like that, they'll get the same issue. It'll say card trouble status at the main computer at PD. It won't say like power supply missing to that detail. You'd actually have to come to the panel to look at what it is.
I know it wasn't requested nor was in the scope of work, but I'm more curious to know, can this system tie to the system over in the other complex? The simplex panel there. So that way, troubles, alarms can report to those panels or enunciators.
If it's part of loop 1, yes. Now, they have 2 loops here.
Okay.
I don't know specifically what building you're talking about,
Okay.
but I know there's an old housing loop here.
Yep.
That housing loop is loop 2, so it's not part of this.
Okay.
But anything on loop 1, I can make this communicate with any other. So let's say, for instance, you had a master panel at some residence building or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible for me to send a point from here over there to let them know, hey, there's a condition in this building.
Okay.
And that could all be just done through programming,
Okay.
as long as it's part of loop 1.
So you want to try and get phase 3 together? Is that
Correct.
What, yeah, I would assume that's on.
Yeah, so I mean, I would think I'm not sure how they plan on doing it, but that function would be left for like what they call an NDU. They have the same setup they have at the police station, they would have like for housing. And I think they have it on loop 2, and it's an old one though. And
At the police department?
yeah, the police department has an NDU, so basically it's a redundant system. So if their computer stops working, if this building goes into alarm, it'll still report on that NDU, which is, it looks just like this, but it's specifically just for all the points coming in from the network.
Okay.
But it's still no problem. We can still map points to any other panel that's part of the same loop
Sure.
to notify the building. It's just that it's more limited. Say this panel is more limited than an NDU for bringing in external points. Like you can only bring in so many. But when it's specified for an NDU, it preserves all the system memory for externals, which means points coming in. So you can have a lot more coming in. But like I said, if it's just going to be a few points, say for instance you had a building over there and you just want to know, hey, Redwood Hall, fire alarm, we could send a point to that to let it know, hey, Redwood Hall is an alarm, without having to look at the NDU or the police station or anything. So they would both get it simultaneously at the same time.
Would you be able to disable it from that other panel that you linked to?
No,
So you just have to come here?
you shouldn't really be able to reset and silence from a remote building unless you're in the building. It could do it technically, but yeah, I don't know if
that was your
they probably
intent,
wouldn't let you do it. Because you could just silence an active alarm and this building could be burning. And people
Right, yeah, no, we generally visit the building wherever the alarm or trouble supervisory is happening. So, and then reset from those panels.
Yeah.
Within those buildings.
Makes sense.
But we do like to see where it's at. So for example, as he described, it'd be great if I'm at my office and Redwood goes off, I at least see it on the enunciator in the housing office that says Redwood in trouble or alarm or whatever, or if it's a device, and then knowing that we have to respond to this building here.
See, there's different ways to get fancy with it. Say for instance, Cal State Northridge, right? Their housing has what they call a remote client, right? They got a true site workstation, that's the computer at police department, right? But what they have is what they call a remote client. So with that remote client, you could have access at another computer to see what's going on at that computer. So it would look to yourself like if you were literally at their computer looking at it with limited functionalities or full functionalities. We can choose what we want to give somebody or not. And from there you would see it just like they see it there. And I could take out certain panels. Like for instance, if you only want to see housing buildings, you could technically remove every other panel from that reporting other than just housing. And there's no equipment involved. You just, any Windows 10 computer, you kind of just, you load the software in there and then you're able to just bring it up and look at it.
I think all we'd want to do is see the activation. That's it.
Yeah, but if you want something as simple as just, you want to just know if there's a fire or a trouble or a supervisory, So you won't get specifics, like it won't be that specific point. Otherwise, you would need like an NDU.
Okay.
If you want to get the specific point address, just like you see it on this display, like they do at PD, you would need an NDU. But if you want to just see an event, then I can just send an event to one of those, if it's the building panel.
When you say event, what do you mean exactly?
Would be these events here. P2, let's just say, I'd only let you know that event's happening. I would say, hey, you have a fire alarm in Redwood Hall. You have a supervisory in Redwood Hall.
Okay, but it won't tell me specific locations, what you're saying. Okay, well, at least that's...
Yeah, if you had an ND...
Because we'd respond anyways to the building, so at least we know to come to this, to this panel to look at this, find location.
You can, but what happens is it starts becoming a limitation of the panel if you don't have a specific NDU. Now, I don't remember the exact, I think you could only bring 2,000 externals into one of these panels from another panel. So you could, but up to a certain point where it's maxed out, and then you'd have to put an NDU in anyways. So really the right way to do it is have an NDU that only serves that purpose instead of using the building panel. So it's a lot less points going over the network when I'm just sending the event itself. If it was an NDU, I would just send everything over there.
Okay.
So our agenda here, we demonstrated the fire alarm condition, how to acknowledge a fire alarm.
Yep.
Read off the fire alarm description at the fire alarm control plan on display, which is what you were showing us there.
Right.
I think we haven't quite updated them yet, right?
Yeah,
It's gonna be per that.
Yeah, we're gonna
You and Tim and I talked about.
we're gonna change them per the three. It's
To Noble,
Redwood, yeah.
and then for the Noble Bridge, it'll be Noble BRG or BRDG
Yeah.
for the bridge.
And that's for all 2 through 6, right? So, I mean, the bridge, the knuckle, whatever, is all going to be identified as Noble.
Noble Bridge, yep.
Noble Bridge, got it. Okay.
And then we demonstrated how to silence the